All right, this is part 2 of our tutorial on Big's project, which is the twist. So if you haven't watched part 1, make sure you click the card that's somewhere up here to take you to that video, and then come right back to this one. Let's continue.
All right, hey guys, welcome back. Part 2. So if you're here, then you are hungry for more. And all right, let's learn some new stuff, right? Let's go ahead and figure out how to include that glazing component into this facade. So the first thing I'll tell you is that we're not really even worrying about this first portion anymore, right? This first part over here, which stays the same, that is not getting affected. Oh, sorry, minimize this guy. There we go. That's not getting affected by the glazing right now. So I'm actually going to just disable it altogether. So we're not even looking at that portion anymore. Then what we need to do is understand that on the end over here, the glazing is just a big rectangle. Okay, very constant. And then in the twist, it starts off continuing with the rectangle, but then tapers off and gets really small until it's nothing. And let's have a look at that. Over here, you see it just tapers off, becomes absolutely nothing over here. Let's see if there's another image of that. Here, this is a great image to show that. Here you can see at the beginning of the twist, it's the same and then diminishes as it goes up. All right, so let's get to it already, right? Let's do this. So what I'm going to say is let's not worry about this merge part, okay? Because you don't want to merge them if they're not correct and ready to use anyway. So Control E is to disable that. And I'm just going to disable it temporarily and move it aside because we're going to need some room, and this is getting quite messy already. So let's just start cleaning this up first. I'm going to move these guys a little bit forward, take these guys, move them forward. Okay, so here's the sublist, and here's the G2 twist that gets its own like flavor on the twisting portion. I don't need this guy anymore. I'm just cleaning up, guys, so that it's clearer for us as we move forward. And I think we're in a good spot here. Okay, so let's go ahead and begin by, let's hide this so we don't look at this anymore. Here, the twisted curves, okay? The twisted curves are going to be a little more complicated, so actually I'm going to start over here with the rotation. All right, how do I, number one, split this up so I can only find this facade, these set of curves, and then number two, once I found those curves, actually split them so that I'm cutting off somewhere from the top, somewhere from the bottom. All right, how do we do that? Let's figure it out. So if you're new to Grasshopper, you're not sure how to explode a curve or something, or how to split something up, you can just start typing in words like split or explode, and eventually, most likely you will come across the component you're looking for. In this case here, explode a curve into smaller segments, which is perfect. Go ahead, put those curves in, and you'll see that it explodes them into 1, 2, 3, 4 segments, which is obvious just by looking at a rectangle. But let's see if it actually did that in Grasshopper. If I hover over segments, you see that each one has been split into 4 parts, which is awesome. Okay, good to go right now. But the problem is, how do I know which curve is which? Well, that's okay. You can always use list item. And by default, list item will always pull out the first item in the list. And if I clank these together and I select this, you'll see that the curve at the top is selected. So this is index 0, which means this facade is either index 1 or this one's index 1. And then this one bottom would be 2 and this would be 3. So let's see which one it is. Now, you could obviously plug in the number 1, but one great thing about some of these components is you could zoom in these little plus icons up here. So the one at the bottom here, if I hit plus, it actually shows me the next index. And you can see the next index is the facade that I need, right? This one on the side, which is perfect. So I'm going to open up a curve, plug this in, and this one I'm going to say facade to split. Okay, this is the facade I need to split, which is great. So go ahead and hide the rest now because we're just distracting ourselves with all this other geometry. Let's only look at this geometry. Now, also, if this happens to you where you're trying to rotate and it's just going crazy on you, go ahead and use Control and Spacebar to bring up this radial menu and click on this magnifying glass. And what that does is zooms right into your geometry, and it's much easier for you to manage it. All right, how do you split this curve? Well, my preferred way of splitting a curve up is this command called Shatter. Okay, Shatter is a really great component because you just put a curve in and give it a parameter, and it will break that curve at that parameter. Okay, so let me show you how this works. So if I plug these into curve, now if you're new to Grasshopper, you should know that as best practice, whenever you have a component that has these two inputs, okay, you may have some other inputs as well, but if you ever see curve and you ever see parameter or the letter T, the first thing you want to do is right click on curve and click reparameterize. That is something that is just a must. Please do that. That'll make your life a lot easier. I see a lot of errors because people forget to do this step. And what's this step actually doing? Here, let me give you a number like 0.25 and plug it in here. You see that it worked just fine. And the input here, you see it's one curve. You see it's multiple lists, but each list only has one curve. If you look at the output, again, it's multiple lists, except each list now has two items. What are those items? Let's have a look. And you'll see that those items are actually two curves. So it has shattered it, but I can't really see them. Like, you know, this on my screen, they still appear as one curve. So again, what I'm going to do is use the list item. Okay, and you'll see that, there it is. That is the curve that got split. You see? So if I move this slider towards, say, 0.5, now that's halfway through. And if I move it all the way to 1, then I'm splitting towards the other end. So this is one way that you can actually start splitting this curve. And so this guy over here is the one you want to keep, right? This is not part of the facade. So this curve right here, this list item, what we did over here, this one I'm going to say curve to keep, okay? Because I don't need the other one really. I just need this one, so I can hide the rest now. Okay, so I'm just keeping this guy. But of course, in our image, you see I also need a little one at the bottom. So I have one at the top. So let me repeat this entire operation to get the one at the bottom. So I'll clean this up a little bit and copy and paste. Now, instead of splitting it at this exact same location, I need to go way further down. So I'm going to go somewhere here, 0.78 or something. But look over here. I don't want this curve. I want the other one, right? The one at the bottom. So remember, you can always zoom in over here and say, I don't want the first item in the list. I want the next one. So here's this one. So instead of the 0 item going in here, I need the first item going in here. And now you see I've actually got that bottom one. So you see in this list, when I split it, the part that I needed was the top part. In this list, when I split it, the part that I need is the bottom part. That's the only reason why I'm taking the first item from this list and the second item from this list. Okay, these are both the curves to keep. So again, I can adjust how big and small this is by just using these sliders that controls that facade. All right. Okay. So when I say keep, who's actually keeping it? I actually want to send these back to the original curves over here. So you remember this is actually a rectangle, right? So I still need the top, the back, and the bottom. So where is the top, the back, and the bottom? Well, I know this one is the top. So that means if I hit another plus sign, I should get the bottom here. And if I hit the plus sign again, this one should be the back. Let me see if that's true. So go ahead, type in merge. So merge the top, the bottom, right? See, top and bottom came together, and the back. So this one only has the top, the bottom, and the back. Okay, and now I'm going to add to it the curves that I wanted to keep, which is this little top portion here and this little bottom portion here. Let's go ahead and do that. So curve to keep and curve to keep here. And of course, you're thinking, hey, I merged them together. They should all come together really nice and clean. If I hover over result, you'll see that that's not the case. There's all this shifting going around. Whenever you see this happening in Grasshopper, my best suggestion is simplify all of the inputs. Right click and simplify, or right click and just hit the letter S. S, 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 S. See if that fixed it. And you can see it did, right? Whenever this happens in Grasshopper, 90% of the time simplify will fix the problem. And you'll see that I have, how many lists is that? 52 different lists. Each list has 5 items, which makes sense. Each list should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What should I do with those curves? I wonder what I should do. Well, okay, it's pretty obvious what I should do with them. I should join them together. So go ahead, join them together. And those 5, where it used to be each list with 5 items, now each list just has 1 item because all those 5 curves got combined into 1 curve. And this is exactly the curves that I need. I'm done here. Okay, so the 90-degree rotation, I'm just going to pull this forward. Now this is the new 90-degree rotated curves, okay? There we go. Oh, what about the facade, Azar? You forgot about the facade. No, that's okay. We can still grab that. Don't worry. So remember these two numbers, which were the parameters that we used on the curve? I can use these same numbers to actually create the facade. And the way I'm going to do that is using a little trick called evaluate curve. Okay, again, notice the very first thing I notice is I see the word curve and I see the word parameter. Whenever those two occur at the same time, you want to right click and reparameterize. What is the curve that I need to split? Well, it's this facade curve from the beginning. You see the full one. If I take that one and place it in here, okay, then I can place this parameter and it'll actually give me that point. So what evaluate curve does is give me a curve, give me a parameter, and I'll tell you the point where it's happening. I'll tell you what the tangent vector is over there. Right now, we don't really care about any of those other inputs, or the outputs rather, except for the point. I can repeat this command, and instead of the first parameter, I can add the second parameter. There we go. So we have that one. And now, what can I do with these 2 points? Well, let's join them together with a line. So type in line. You'll see that there's a component called create a line between 2 points, which is perfect for us. So this point and this point comes together, creates those curves. Now, in order for us not to get confused, I'm going to actually do a little custom preview. And just so that those curves appear a little different, add a swatch over here, which is blue, or something that looks like a, glass. And that way I can kind of like visually tell that that one is different. So for the one at the end, it's not so bad actually. It's quite straightforward on how to do that, even though the components are a lot. I mean, when I say straightforward, I mean take a curve, split it, send it back to the original, put it together. It's the steps seem a little more logical. When it comes to the one which is on the twist, that one's going to be a little bit more challenging. So let's see how we would address that one on the twist portion, which is here. Okay, so let me show those curves. Here we go. We need to do the exact same thing here. So again, we can shatter it, right? Oh, sorry, not shatter it, explode. So we can get all the 4 sides. The 4 sides should be the same. So the facade to split, the facade to split should be the same. So if I put this under list item and I pull out the first item, let me show this and highlight it, and you'll see, yep, it's the exact same side, right? So that's the facade I need to work on, the one that's twisting up. That's fine. Okay, and what did we do? Okay, we did a shatter command and we entered this parameter and this parameter and did a whole bunch of other steps over here. Okay, do we need to do the exact same thing or not? Should I just copy all of this up here? Probably. Let's try that. Let's try that at first, and if it doesn't work, we can always readjust. Okay, so I'm going to pull this down just to give myself some extra room. Go ahead and grab everything from here and copy and paste and bring it up. Okay, and again, this facade goes in this curve, this curve, this curve, and this curve. And notice that it's doing everything just right. It's doing the exact same thing that it did before. Let me just make sure. Oh, what's happening is I have this one showing. There we go. So it's done the exact same thing as before, except for the shrinking, right? So it's doing it correctly, but except what we want to do is, you see what's happening? This parameter here, the 0.2, which first of all, look at this. This is not good, right? First of all, notice that as I move this parameter, you don't want to have 2 of them. You don't want to have this 0.2 and have to remember that this has to stay the same. So why not feed this parameter into everywhere that this is going? So that's the first thing I'm going to do, is take this and replace these. That way I only have one parameter that controls with the top edge. You see that? In fact, the top edge always stays constant in this particular project, because if I look here, you see that top edge is pretty much the same. It's the bottom edge that's the one that needs to creep up and match the top edge. Okay, so the top edge, this is the, let's call it what it is, top edge parameter. Excellent. Okay, leave that as is. This one is bottom edge parameter. Except here's the trick. Instead of this one shattering at this 0.84, it needs to shatter at 0.84, but then start to become, I don't know, 0.83, 0.82, 0.80, 0.7, 0.6, 0.5, all the way to here when it actually reaches, which is that number, 0.17. You see the top parameter. So this number needs to change to another number over some increments, and we know how to do that, right? We know how to do that. Again, we're going to use the range component. Okay, we know exactly what the domain needs to be in this case. So again, construct the new domain, and the start of this domain, we know what that number needs to be. It's this number down here, okay, which is the 0.84. In fact, I'm looking at this backwards, I think, because really I should be starting over here, right? Because my project actually starts at the origin going this way. So what number does it need to be over here? It actually needs to match the top edge parameter over here, which is this guy. So the top edge parameter is where it needs to start. And as it comes towards the right, it actually increases all the way to here, where it has to match the bottom edge parameter. So the bottom edge parameter goes here. Okay, and now if I hover over here, perfect, I have a range that goes from 0.17 to 0.84, which is absolutely perfect. The only problem is I only have 11 numbers. How many do I need? Well, again, I need as many as the curves that I have. How many curves do I have? Well, if I come up here to facade to split, it says I have 88 values. So I have 88 curves. How do I pull out this 88? Well, remember last time we used list length. And for some of you who know what's going to happen already can tell me what's happening. Well, yeah, it's not going to give me what I need. It's not going to give me one number. It's going to say, hey, you have multiple lists, so I'm going to measure each list separately. What you can do is, instead of looking at multiple lists, to just look at one list, you can always right-click and flatten all of this data, and it will flatten all that information down into one list that has 88 values. Pull that number 88 out for you right here. So again, this list length actually comes down here, which helps me go into the number of steps. And just like last time, remember if I hover over range, I actually see that I have 89 numbers, not 88. So if you input 88, you get 89. So to get 88 out, I need to input 87. So you take this number, go under expression, and reduce it by 1, x minus 1. Commit those changes, and you see that now I have 88 values that go from 0.17 all the way to 0.84, which is perfect, right? That's great. So where do I need to make this adjustment? So it's actually happening with this number here, right? I don't want to feed it the 0.84. I actually want to feed it all this range of numbers. So go ahead and plug this into here. And you'll see that it's still not working. Or actually, well, it hasn't affected this one yet, but it should have affected these two, right? But it hasn't done that. So why hasn't that worked? Well, one of the reasons is, look at this guy, right? Let me pull this out just a little bit so you can see what's happening over here. If you guys don't have your fancy wires on, right? So you want to go to display, make sure fancy wires is turned on, and you'll see that in here, you're actually getting a dash line, which means there's multiple lists coming inside. Whereas over here, you just have this hollow line, which means there's multiple items, but they're all in one list. So the way you can turn this, and again, this is not a list management tutorial, but what I can tell you is when you see this, one way to probably fix this is right-click and graph this information. So what the graph does is actually turns all the inputs into its own branch, and therefore it'll just make this process a little bit better for you. So you see over here I have 88 branches coming in, each with one item, and over here also I have 88 branches coming in, each with one item, and you can see that the result is actually pretty good right now, which gives me my 2 curves to keep, which when I combine with my, ooh, look at this, right? You can't combine the curves from this guy, you need to actually combine the curves from here. So I do need to do a little bit of readjusting. There, and there. Good. And this combines to give me my rotation, and that part is done. Excellent. Now the only thing left is the facade portion. So for the facade, again, this point remains the same. You see that point is actually working out quite fine. And let's have a look at this a little bit better by not looking at all of this. There we go. So that point is fine. I need this point now, the one along the bottom edge, which should be here. But notice when I click it, it doesn't give me that. And that's because I'm giving it a constant number. I don't want to give it this number. I want to give it the range. And again, something messed up. So whenever this messes up, you always want to go look at your inputs. Chances are there's a problem with your input. And here again, there's a dash line coming in here, but a hollow line coming here. So you want to right click and graft and see if that fixes it. Most of the time it will. And here you can see now I have those two lines, or sorry, those 2 points, which I can combine to create a line, and I can color that line blue. And there we go. Now I have that facade as well. So how do we proceed from here? Well, that gets joined. Again, I'm just resetting basically the information that's coming in here. This goes here. This replaces the old one as well. Okay, so show this and enable. I think there's still one thing that's disabled. Oh yeah, the original one here. And let's see if that fixed it. And there we go. Excellent. There's still some other stuff that's previewed I need to hide. There we go. And I think that should be pretty good. So we still have just these two parameters. Oh, look what's happened over here. Something messed up. Hold on. Let's have a look. Oh, I didn't actually replace that one. Disconnect this guy. Move this up here. There we go. That fixed it. Excellent. So again, we're pretty good. Look, these are the only two parameters you need. Top edge of the facade, which I can change. You see I can make that thinner or wider. Same with the bottom edge. And that's how you pretty much model the twist by Big, getting the facade in there, using domains, using sublists, etc. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. I know it's a little long, but you know, sometimes for projects like these, you do need a good, nice, slow tutorial so everyone understands every little step, because it is a little bit complicated, even though this form looks super simple. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed that. I'll see you guys next time.
Thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, give us a thumbs up and make sure that you download any files using the link in the description box below, and I'll see you guys next time.